welcome you to this ceremony in honor of Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Risberg. Today, the men and women of the United States of America and the United States Air Force and the Air Mobility Command Air Intelligence Squadron pay special tribute to Lieutenant Colonel Risberg on the occasion of his retirement from active duty after more than 20 years of dedicated service to our Air Force and our nation. Officiating today's ceremony is the Air Mobility Command Director of Intelligence, Surveillance, and Reconnaissance, Col Keith Andrews, joined by his wife, Bernadette, and his daughter, Ariel. As we all know, a successful military career doesn't happen without the encouragement of a supportive family. So before we proceed, please allow me to introduce Lieutenant Colonel Risberg's family and special guest who played such a pivotal role to his success and happiness. Lieutenant Colonel Risberg's wife, Youjin, and his children, Daniel and Hannah. His aunt and uncle, Jean and George Risberg from Wisconsin. Master Park and his wife, Melinda. U.S. Air Force Senior Master Sergeant retired, Brian De Pasquale. We would also like to extend a warm welcome to the Air Mobility Command Deputy Director of Intelligence, Surveillance, and Reconnaissance, Mr. Ray Swagger, and his wife, Julie. As well as the commander of the AMC Air Intelligence Squadron, Lieutenant Colonel Bob Brenzel, Jr., and his wife, Minoska, the Air Mobility Command Intelligence Functional Manager, Chief Master Sergeant Joseph Kaiser, and all contractors, civilians, and airmen whom Lieutenant Colonel Risberg has had the honor and privilege to serve. Thank you all for taking the time out of your busy schedules to help us celebrate this very special occasion. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the arrival of the official party and remain standing for the playing of the National Anthem by Daniel and Hannah Risberg, followed by an invocation from Mr. Ken Lentz.
Pray with me. Our Father in heaven, holy is your name. give you praise and glory for this beautiful day as we celebrate Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Risberg, and his lifetime of commitment to service. More than 20 years in the United States Air Force. You have been his strength as he has served the Air Force, the nation, his communities, wherever he has been stationed, service to his brothers and sisters in arms, and to his family. His personal sacrifices have been great, and for his service and your protection, we are forever grateful. For his family, Father, for Youjin and Daniel and Hannah, we give you thanks for their service and sacrifice as members of our Air Force family. We pray you'll continue to bless them and fill them with music and joy, and multiply back to them rewards for the time, tears, and talents they have spent in service. That you have protected and sustained them as a witness to your faithfulness, and we thank you for their past and the future which you hold in your hands. As Dan and his family turn this page in the song of their life of service, we pray your blessings and guidance on the decisions they make, and your favor on the boundless opportunities you rolled out before them. That the wind of your hope and strength will keep them as they individually and as a family step boldly into the future that you've prepared for them. Father, we ask specifically for your blessing on this time today as we celebrate the accomplishments of Lieutenant Colonel Risberg and his family, recounting the successes and accomplishments and the principles that have brought us to this remarkable moment, as he has boldly exemplified integrity, service, and excellence. Let this be a historic marker of past blessings and a future overflowing with hope and joy brought about by lives of service. In your Holy Son's name we pray.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. To introduce the presiding officer, Col Keith Andrews.
All right, we gotta let the kids get back to their seats. Come on up, kids. And while they're coming, I think we need to give them another round of applause. But I got to tell you, family, this is all for you. On behalf of our United States of America, on the Air Force, I'd just like to tell to each and every one of you, thank you for your service to our country. 20 years, 5 months, and 20 days. That's a long time. So Youjin, thank you for being with Dan. Also, Dan's parents are not able to be with us. They've passed away, but his uncle is here, his dad's youngest brother is here, and his wife. Thank you all for coming out. And of course, to my lovely bride, Bernadette, thank you for coming out. Now, and Ariel. Now, you guys want Julie's here. Hi, Julie, how are you? Thank you for coming as well. Now, you guys want to hear about that. Now, you might know Lieutenant Colonel Risberg is this guy who walks around and has everything going on. Because he does. Pretty sharp guy. But way back when, he was born in Wisconsin. Then he moved to Missouri, later moved on down to New Mexico, where he graduated from high school. After graduated from high school, he wanted to go back to Missouri because he loved Missouri. So he decided to go back to Missouri, went to Missouri State, majored in mathematics education. Mathematics education. Wow, smart guy. Now the education part is something that his parents gave to him, and it's been a part of him throughout his life. And that education is the service before self. You know, in the Air Force, we have core values. Integrity first, service before self, and excellence in all we do. And that's how I like to characterize Colonel Risberg, or Dan's career and his life with those core values, but specifically, he honed in on service before self. And he learned that from his parents. They were both teachers, and he wanted to be a teacher, so he majored in mathematics education because he wanted to be a teacher. After graduation, he did that. In Missouri, he started teaching. He taught for actually 2 years in Missouri. The second year, he was accepted to OTS, 1994 time frame. Accepted to OTS, went to OTS, and he was, the career field was information management. Because he's so smart, he knows all the information, so he's got management. So that's what the Air Force gave him for his first career field, and he went to Kadena Air Base, Japan. He goes off to Kadena. Now, at Kadena at the time, the school system, the Dodge school system, many of you are familiar with it already, you went when you were in Korea. Pretty good school system there, the kids went as well. The Dodge school system in Korea, in Japan, at Kadena, the parents would ride on board each bus. Every day they rotate the parents through to be chaperones. Well, somebody had to manage this program. So they got this information management guy to be the Dodge liaison officer, better known as the bus barn commander. He commanded the bus barn. And he did it with excellence. I mean, those parents would come in there, hey, my kid, why is my kid getting put off the bus? Well, ma'am, let me show you. We have a tape. Little Johnny did do it, and little Johnny is bad. And I mean, he stood up to the parents, he stood up to he was tough. So tough, they said, okay, we're done with you being the bus barn commander. We're going to make you the section commander. Because commander of the bus barn, now he's prepared to be the section commander. Section commander, he's got all kinds of duties being the section commander. Now he's not dealing with little kids getting in trouble, he's dealing with adults getting in trouble. Alcohol problems, fighting downtown. But when they come and see Lieutenant Risberg, he get them straight and move them on their way. Now, at the time, while he was at Kadena, Dan, very smart guy, as we already realized, he said, this marriage thing, I'm not getting married until I turn 30. Because, I want to be a smart guy, I want to finish, get my career going, but not until I turn 30. Well, while he was at Kadena, he started going to this church, local church there. His DO actually went to the same church. And he was going to the church by himself, sitting there. And then, as a good young man, he always said his prayers at night before he went to bed. So one time he was down on his knees saying his prayers. He said, he was talking to God. It's a personal thing, but he did share this. He said, God, I know I talked about this 30-year thing, but I'm getting a little lonely. It could be a little lonely. Lo and behold, next time he goes to church, his DO's wife is Youjin's aunt. And notices this young man sitting in church all alone, all by himself, and tells her husband, Youjin's uncle, who is that young man? Pretty sharp looking lieutenant. He looks pretty lonely. And his DO came up to him and said, I have someone you'd like to meet. Divine intervention. And here we are. Youjin is here. They met and got married, fell in love. It was love at first sight. But that's where it all happened, at Kadena Air Base. And he looked up, he's been thanking God ever since. Because what a beautiful bride that he has. Wouldn't you all agree? Amen. Now he did a great job. He did a great job at Kadena, continued doing great things. Of course, once Youjin came into his life, he was continued to be a great section commander. He was so good that he won the Information Manager of the Year in 1997 before leaving Kadena. Now, during this time, the Air Force was going through a lot of changes. Hey, we're going to the information managers. We're changing AFSCs. What do you want to do? And Dan said, you know what? They gave him some options, and he said, how about cross-training into Intel? Intel was on the list, want to cross-train. Smart guy says, how about Intel? So he goes off to Intel School in 1997. Now, we've already told you how smart he is. So when he graduated, excellence in all he does, DG, top of the class, #1 student in Intel School at the fellow. He graduates top of his class. He was so sharp, they said, hey, we want you to stay here and instruct other students. So he agreed. He stayed on, a good fellow. They didn't have any class going right there, so they made him an exec. So he was exec for a short period of time, and then they wanted to bring him up to the podium to instruct the good fellow. So before they did that, Dan said, you know, I'm pretty smart, but I need some credibility. How about let me deploy? So he deployed Operation Allied Force. He deployed to Europe. Now, at the time during this deployment, we had some things going on in Bosnia. He was the air defense artillery guy, the night guy for the air defense artillery. He's over there on this deployment, and smart guy, knows what's going on, F-16s get shot down. So it's at night, because these kind of things happen normally at night when they were one of the night guys. So he is the night guy on board. The senior analyst is in the daytime. He's on board, took care of everything. General Jumper, the EUCOM commander, was called in. Who briefed him? Dan. Did not call in the first analyst. He took care of all of that on his own. Left there, came back to Goodfellow after that deployment, got on the podium and was instructing students. I mean, we already talked about how smart he is. Electromagnetic spectrum and the space clock. Talk about some snoozers. But he taught those two classes back to back. Man, I hated those courses. But he did it, and he did it with excellence. That was in 97 to 2000. Then he left there and went to Davis-Monthan. He went to Davis-Monthan when he was then assigned as the IN for the EC-130H compass call, or for our civilians, some smart airplanes that fly all over the world and collect some pretty smart stuff that's going on. And there's only a few of them, so they go all over the place. So Dan got the chance to lead that operation. Doing a great job there. They moved on to the group. Then he was part of the 612th AOC, and he started doing plans. So he became a plans officer. So this was 2000. He stayed there 2000 to 2004. Doing plans, working plans, OIF, OEF, the plans guy, right? Then they said, okay, it's time for an assignment, 2004 time frame. How about Korea? So he says, wait a minute. Youjin is Korean. She might like going to Korea. I might like going to Korea. Went to USFK. He said in 2004, he said, I'll tell you what, I'll stay. Most people, when you go to Korea, you stay for 1 year. If you bring your family, you can stay for 2 years. Well, he signed up on the way over there and said, I'll stay for 3 years. Over there for 1 year, 2 year, 2 year point, he went to his boss and said, okay, I know next year is my 3rd year. How about I sign up for another year? Not only did they give him 4 years, they gave him a 5th year. He stayed in Korea for 5 years. 3 J2s. As the plans guy. And you know everything that goes on in Korea. Smart, doing plans for USFK. He was the #1. He was the #1's #1. I mean, they called on him in Korea to do everything. The J2 would call on him, hey, who needs it? Go to that. You need anything? Risberg. He's the man. He was the man in Korea. Stayed there for 5 years. Then he left there, and that's where we were so lucky and blessed to get him here at Air Mobility. He came here, worked in A2F, the training shop, standards and evaluation shop. He was the chief of that, working very hard in there, and then we deployed him. He went on deployment. After that, came back, and he was in charge of A2X. They're in charge of all our systems, making sure that we're able to do our jobs. Without A2X, we wouldn't be able to come to work. We'd have a place to sit, nothing to do, no connections. He was in charge of all of that. Came up with new initiatives here, things that we're able to do around the world, with our deployable mission that we weren't able to do in the past under his leadership. He also was the assistant to the director of A2, so he was dual-headed in both of those jobs, and he's been doing a great job ever since. So I am very proud to have served with him on his 20-year journey. Very proud of today to be a part of his retirement ceremony. Very honored to be here. To the family, I'll just say thank you once again. So let's go ahead and make this retirement official. Dan, if you'll join me up here.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise as Colonel Andrews presents the Meritorious Service Medal, 2nd Oak Cluster to Lieutenant Colonel Risberg. Attention to orders. This is to certify that the President of the United States of America, authorized by Executive Order 16 January 1969, has awarded the Meritorious Service Medal, 2nd Oak Cluster to Lieutenant Colonel Daniel J. Risberg for meritorious service from 28 July 2009 to 30 November 2014. Lieutenant Colonel Daniel J. Risberg distinguished himself in the performance of outstanding service to the United States as Director of Operations for Intelligence, Surveillance, and Reconnaissance, Directorate of Intelligence, Surveillance, and Reconnaissance, Headquarters at Air Mobility Command, Scott Air Force Base, Illinois. During this period, Colonel Risberg flawlessly managed a $15 million budget and $13 million in intelligence systems, leading to the successful accomplishment of over 150,000 air mobility sorties, supporting overseas contingency operations. Additionally, he expertly crafted Air Mobility Command's intelligence support concept of operations for the KC-46A, which ensured the future intelligence readiness of the Air Force's next-generation air refueling platform. Finally, Lieutenant Colonel Risberg's dedicated efforts enabled the timely acquisition of 11 global rapid response intelligence packages, valued at $495,000, which proved vital to the success of 6 contingency operations by providing secure, reliable intelligence communications to forward-deployed air mobility personnel. The singularly distinctive accomplishments of Colonel Risberg's culminate a distinguished career in the service of his country and reflect great credit upon himself and the United States Air Force. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing as Colonel Andrews. Attention to orders. Lieutenant Colonel Daniel J. Risberg, effective 30 November 2014, you are relieved from active duty, organization, and station of assignment. Retired effective 01 December 2014 per Air Force Instruction 363203 in the grade of Lieutenant Colonel by order of the Secretary of the Air Force. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Lieutenant Colonel Risberg will now receive the Certificate of Retirement, which reads, Certificate of Retirement from the Armed Forces of the United States of America. This is to certify that Lieutenant Colonel Daniel J. Risberg has served faithfully and honorably, which retired from the United States Air Force on the first day of December 2014. Signed, Mark A. Welsh, General, United States Air Force Chief of Staff, and Darren W. McDough, General, United States Air Force Commander, Air Mobility Command. Risberg will now receive a letter of appreciation from the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force, James Cody, which reads,
Oh, we took a picture of this the first time. Ah, I got to take it.
I am proud to join your friends and family in congratulating you on your retirement from the United States Air Force. Lieutenant Colonel Daniel J. Risberg, the achievements and contributions you have made throughout your career are indicative of the core values of our great service. Your retirement is well deserved, but your selfless contributions will be sorely missed. On behalf of all airmen, thank you for your faithful and devoted service to our nation. As this chapter in your life closes and a new one begins, I hope the years ahead are filled with more great memories and continued success. Signed, James Cody, Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force. Lieutenant Colonel Risberg will now receive a letter of appreciation from the Commander, Air Mobility Command, General Darren W. McDew, which reads,
On behalf of the men and women of the Air Mobility Command, congratulations on 20 years of outstanding and dedicated service to our nation. On the eve of your retirement from active duty, we offer our sincere appreciation to you and your family for the many sacrifices you have endured to preserve the blessings of freedom. Throughout your career, you have demonstrated great resolve and faith in your calling to the profession of arms. Your career has been marked by significant contributions, and you will be sorely missed. The next generation of Air Force leaders will certainly profit from your example. Our warmest regards and best wishes go with you and your family as you enter this new, exciting phase of your life. Godspeed. Signed, General Aaron McDew, Commander.
Mrs. Risberg, would you please come forward to present Dan with the retirement pin? Each time Lieutenant Colonel Risberg wears his uniform or business attire in the future, this pin will serve as a reminder that he has served his country faithfully and has earned his retirement. The pin indicates he is still an Air Force member, but now serves in retired status. Lieutenant Colonel Risberg, please wear this pin proudly on any occasion you may represent the Air Force. Mrs. Risberg will now receive a certificate of appreciation from the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force, which reads, To Youjin Risberg, I join your spouse, family, and friends in thanking you for the numerous contributions and sacrifices you made in support of our United States Air Force. Your dedication gave strength and purpose to your spouse's service in defense of our nation. given this 15th day of August 2014. Signed, James Cody, Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force. Mrs. Risberg will now receive a certificate of appreciation from the United States Air Force, which reads, to Youjin Risberg, for the commitment and numerous contributions that have made positive impacts to the nation's defense. Thank you for your support, which gave strength and purpose to your spouse's service. Given this 15th day of August 2014. Signed, Darren W. McDew, Commander Air Mobility, Air Mobility Command, and Mark A. Welsh, Chief of Staff. Daniel and Hannah, would you please join your parents? Daniel and Hannah are receiving certificates of appreciation from the commander. This is to certify that Daniel and Hannah Risberg, on the occasion of their father's retirement from honorable service with the United States Air Force, have earned grateful appreciation for their support and loyalty during their years as United States Air Force dependents. Their growth and maturity have made Lieutenant Colonel Daniel J. Risberg a proud father and given him inspiration to serve his nation with integrity and honor. Presented this 15th day of August 2014. In addition to acknowledging his family's selflessness over the past 20 years, Lieutenant Colonel Risberg would like to present flowers to his wife, Youjin, and his daughter, Hannah. Additionally, he would like to present a memento to his son, Daniel. For our final presentation, we bestow a flag, which has been flown over the United States Capitol building to commemorate the sacrifice and dedication Lieutenant Colonel Risberg displayed during his service to the United States of America. It is encased in Lieutenant Colonel Risberg's shadow box, which symbolizes 20 years of devoted service to his country. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to present Lieutenant Colonel Daniel J. Risberg, United States Air Force, retired.
Don't worry, it's 2 pages, but it's like my son's written homework. It's double-spaced and type 14 fonts. Let me begin with some thanks. First, thank you, Colonel Andrews, for officiating today's ceremony and for your kind words. Thank you, Lieutenant Pistana, back there on the camera, for being in charge of my ceremony, and to Lieutenant Brown for emceeing. You both did a great job. And you made a very busy and emotionally tumultuous time easier for me. Thank you. kids, you did pretty good too. Yes. Thank you, Uncle George and Aunt Jean for traveling the interstates. It means a lot to me to have extended family here to share. Speaking of extended family, you see this quilt. That time after I graduated from high school and before I came to Missouri to go to school, the folks that quilted this for me actually came down from Missouri with a car trailer, took my 2 cars all the way back to Missouri and gave me a place to stay until I got settled. It's Ray and Youjin, and I owe them greatly, but they stitched this up for me in the last couple of weeks. I see George back there too. George, thank you. Thank you, neighbors and friends and fellow airmen, for making this moment, marking, that's why I use my phone. Thank you for marking this moment with the grace of your presence. It is my honor to have you here. It has been my honor to be an officer in the United States Air Force, and that honor will not leave me. I therefore view this moment as a commencement, not a retirement. I began this journey as a man in search of a family, seeking to serve from within the family in keeping with the best traditions and the values of that family. In the Air Force, I found a family of families working as one to accomplish extraordinary feats. Feats unmatched by any other service of arms of any nation in the history of mankind. I have been continuously humbled by my fellow airmen, never failing to recognize the privilege I enjoy in being surrounded by amazingly talented, dedicated, and professional brothers and sisters, all of whom I have served with took a vested interest in my development and success. From non-commissioned officers, I learned the common sense paths to navigating the Air Force and the resourceful ingenuity needed to get things done. They also taught me the wonders of an ammo bowl. From young airmen, I learned to lead, to trust, and to challenge through empowerment. From civilians, I learned to seek out advice and counsel, and to listen. I learned from the good and the bad of my fellow officers and supervisors, but mostly the good. What it means to provide helpful and consistent guidance and support, and how that differs from whimsical mismanagement. I owe my Air Force success in this graduation day to all of these airmen and to all of you, and I will be forever grateful. To my family, my wife Youjin, I recollect that the Air Force is how and why we met. To my kids Daniel and Hannah, I will point out then that the Air Force played a part in why you exist. Be mindful of this fact whenever you see, hear, or read anything about the Air Force. I too will always be mindful that you, Youjin, you, Daniel,